Welcome inside the fish tank, everybody. My name is Andrew Sferator. Today, I'm joined by two co-hosts, Nick Vasella and Vincent Gagliardo, aka our number one fan. Today, we're going to do some Week 7 review. We got two segments. One of them is
He's a monster!
And the other one will be the Week 7 winners and losers. But how are you doing today, Nick Vasella?
I gotta say I'm doing pretty good. I went 2-0 in both of my leagues that count this year. And I'm just trying to chip away in those leagues. I'm just improving my spot and avoiding embarrassment in one of them. So, it was a pretty good week. I can't complain. How about you guys?
I'm doing pretty well. I did lose this week to my main man, Facilla. But yeah, I'm sorry, I might have butchered that last name. I'm not gonna cap. But you know what? I'm looking forward to the future of the season. I'm 4-3 right now, and I think I got a playoff spot in the lock. So
In the lock. Week 7?
Absolutely.
Oh,
Don't
my
you
God.
dare talk his
Yes,
team.
sir.
Don't you dare talk his team down. I won't stand for that. His team is tremendous.
Just because I say he's not a
Tremendous.
lock for the playoffs doesn't mean I'm talking his team down.
No, he is a lock for the playoffs.
I got that wild card spot secured.
Absolutely. Or he's going to win his division.
I don't know about that one.
You're going to compete for it down to the very last week and make the
I'm gonna
playoffs.
beat TJ this week, baby. Yes, sir.
Okay, before we get into the he's a monster, we got a little debate for you guys first. And
I love
this comes off of the back of me saying in our little group chat that Kenyan Drake is droppable.
Ooh, I'm ready for
Aren't
this.
aware, Kenyan Drake is the running back of the Arizona Cardinals who got injured in the fourth quarter of their most recent game against the Seattle Seahawks. By the way, that was a very exciting game. But back to the debate. I say Kenyan Drake is droppable. Mr. Fasella over here says he's not.
Yeah, it's Mr. Vasella here, and it's everybody in the fantasy universe who says he's not droppable. So you're the only one. And it's just it's simple. Somebody who gets the amount of touches and work that Kenyan Drake does when he's healthy is not even close to droppable. Drake averages over 18 touches a game. He's in a great offense. We understand he's not involved in the passing game, but we're not talking about whether he should be in your lineup every single week. You're saying he's droppable. How is he droppable? I'm just curious. Who would you be picking up off the waiver wire and dropping Kenyan Drake for?
Well, let's just start from the beginning, all right? So Kenyan Drake, he was crying as he came off the field. So obviously that's never a good sign. You never want to see a player cry when they get injured. That means it's a pretty serious injury here. Now, prior to this injury, Kenyan Drake is the RB21 on the year. Now, if you take out that one game he had against the Dallas Cowboys where he had that one long touchdown, other than that, he has sucked. He has completely sucked. He's probably the biggest bust of the year. And now he's going to miss multiple weeks with an injury. Now, the Cardinals do have a bye this week in Week 8. But after the bye, they play 3 games in an 11-day span. And he is likely not going to suit up for any of those 3 games, which brings us to Week 12. Week 12 is
3 games in 11 days.
Yes.
Gee.
So that brings us to Week 12. Week 12 is 2 weeks before a fantasy playoffs start for most leagues. And 2 weeks before fantasy playoffs, you want to have a lineup that you know is for a fact fully healthy and going to produce. And if Kenyan Drake is in your lineup, there's no way you're going to be confident that Kenyan Drake, coming off a very serious high ankle sprain, is going to be able to, provide you that boost that you need to get into the playoffs. And after and during those weeks 12 to 16, which is the end of the fantasy season, these are the teams he plays. He plays New England, LA Rams, a top 10 run defense, the Giants, Philadelphia, a top 10 run defense, and San Francisco, a top 3 run defense. So that right there is it's a really brutal schedule for a guy who's been struggling the whole year. So I'm not sure you can even plug him into your lineup in any of those games, besides maybe the Giants. Now we get to his backup. His backup is Chase Edmonds, who I said Kenyan Drake was the running back 21. Chase Edmonds is the running back 23. And he is going to be the feature back in this offense while Drake isn't there to steal away, like you said, 18 touches a game. And I think Chase Edmonds is going to shine as the feature back in this offense. It's going to be a very similar situation to what we saw last year. Last year, as you may remember, David Johnson, who had a prime role in this offense, he got injured. And they traded for Kenyan Drake. And what did Kenyan Drake do? He ran away with the starting role, and he won many People Fantasy Championships because of the way he performed in the last 3 or 4 game stretch. So I think that is going to be the Chase Edmonds of this year. The Chase Edmonds that is averaging 6.1 yards per carry, 8.5 yards per reception, compared to Drake's 4.3 and 4.1 yards per reception. Those are just very contrasting numbers right there. So Kenyan Drake, when he comes back, tough schedule, probably going to get less work than he has been getting because Chase Edmonds is going to shine, and you just can't plug him in with certainty.
Well, all right. So now listening to that entire argument you just made against Kenyan Drake, that you're trying to make a point for a different conversation. Your whole argument from the beginning was that he's droppable. Your whole argument you just made proves the point why he shouldn't be in your starting lineup. Those are 2 different conversations. All right, you want to talk about how he shouldn't be in your starting lineup, and he's you start him against the Giants that 1 week, or when if he proves he does well when he comes back. All right, I can buy that, but I don't think he's droppable just because he's got a tough schedule down the line, and just because you have a suspicion that he's going to lose his entire job, just like David Johnson did last week. That doesn't make him droppable. You're going to hang on to him You're going to hang on to him for those weeks until he proves that he's just a complete non-factor, which he isn't. He's not a non-factor. Edmonds has been outperforming him the entire season, but Kenyan Drake is still the lead running back in this offense. And another thing, you were quoted as saying that you would drop Kenyan Drake even if you had a free IR spot.
I already redacted that
wait a second. So from that moment, you went from saying you would drop him even if you had a free IR spot. Then later you pivoted to saying no, if you had a free IR spot, you would keep him. And now on the show, you're pivoting to saying I wouldn't start him. So what is it here? Is Kenyan Drake droppable, or is he a bench warmer the rest of the year?
Well, Kenyan Drake is droppable. And any good fantasy player with a brain would tell you that on your bench, you want the upside players. You don't want the players that are just going to sit on your bench and put up that you're not going to be able to predict when they're going to be able to be startable.
Kenyan Drake has as much upside as anybody. He gets 18 touches a game in a great offense.
He's been getting 18 touches a game the entire year, and he's only performed in one of them. So how are you going to be able to predict that, especially against these tough matchups? You're never going to be able to start him with confidence. So what's the point of having him on your roster?
Just because you can't start him with confidence doesn't mean that he's droppable. And by the way, answer this question. You still haven't answered this question. Who would give an example of a player you would be dropping Kenyan Drake for?
Okay, well, if your league doesn't have IR spots, and you need to drop somebody, and you need to pick up a running back because your running back is Kenyan Drake, I would be okay with picking up Carlos Hyde if he's playing this week in favor of Kenyan Drake.
That's just not a statement that many fantasy managers would agree with. Dropping Kenyan Drake, who's you're just going to cut ties from your probably first or early second round pick, who is just hurt for the moment. It's not even. The injury is less serious than we thought, so he's going to miss a few weeks here. So you would just all of a sudden just let go of that and all those touches per game for a guy who might be a 1 week replacement. That is just not something that most fantasy managers out there would be doing. And if Kenyan Drake was dropped in your league, people would be lining up for him. People would be lining up single formation single file for Kenyan Drake if he's dropped. That's an outrageous statement, and it's just I don't even know what to call it, because that is just it. I don't even think it's debatable, really. I mean, it's just wrong. It's erroneous. It's not correct. It's not something that anybody out there would agree with.
When I say droppable, I mean you can drop him, not you have to drop him in favor of somebody else.
All right. We can agree to disagree on that. I mean, actually, the whole world can agree to disagree with you on that, but
Yeesh.
All right, we'll move on.
Wow, that was an argument. Oof.
That is what we do. We do nothing but truth telling. I'm going to tell the truth about what I feel. Andrew's going to tell the truth about what he feels. Nothing but truth telling here on the Fish Tank and Healthy Debates. All right, moving on to our He's a Monster segment. Sverator. Thanks, Nick Mamey, once again. All right.
Maybe.
Gags, give us your monster for the week.
I mean, my monster of the week is number 17, wide receiver on the Green Bay Packers, Devontae Adams. I mean, just look at his numbers. 13 PPR league, that's already 13 points. 196 yards and 2 touchdowns. That in our PPR league, that was 44.6 points. I mean, this guy, I would say best route runner in the NFL. Has a case for best receiver in the NFL. Has a case.
All right.
And he's just an absolute monster. A-Rod loves him. The offense loves throwing him this ball. And he gets those targets and he's an end zone machine. He's just an all-around beast. And that's why he's a monster.
Yeah, I think the only question with Devontae Adams is can he stay healthy? And
Very
when he's healthy,
that is very true.
the top 2
But
receiver
when
in
he-
fantasy.
When he is healthy, top 2 receiver in fantasy.
So Devontae Adams.
I think he's not. Actually, I think he's.
Oh, I'm
Yeah,
sorry, Fish.
he's a monster. I think he is wide receiver 1. He's wide receiver 1 and 1A, and DeAndre Hopkins is 1B rest of the year in fantasy.
Yeah, I would have put Hopkins over him, but I could see that.
I think I would put Hopkins over him too. I mean, it's a toss-up, really.
Okay. I guess I will give my winner. And my winner, be prepared for a well-informed conversation about this guy.
He's
a monster.
Sorry, he's a monster. Winners and losers is later. But it is Pittsburgh Steelers wide receiver, Nope, it's not him. It's Chase. Oh, nope, it's not him. It's the one on that team. It is Deontay Johnson.
He's a monster!
All right, so Deontay Johnson. Let's just go back to his most recent game, which is why he's on this list. 15 targets, 9 catches, 80 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Obviously, he's coming off of a couple of injuries where he left a pair of games early that upset some fantasy managers. But in this game, he most certainly did not leave early. He stayed until the very end, and he made sure everyone knew about it because he caught 2 touchdown passes. So when he's playing the full games, which was weeks 1, 2, and 7 of this year, and the other weeks he either didn't play or he left early, he's averaging over 12 targets per game for a total of 41 through weeks 1, 3, 5, and 7. That is including the games he left early. And that is a 29% target share on the Pittsburgh Steelers while not playing a pair of games. This is compared to Chase Claypool, who's averaging just over 4 targets per game for a total of 25, and JuJu, who's averaging 7 per game for a total of 42. So if there's any debate, if there's anyone who thinks that Deontay Johnson isn't the one on this team, they are just dead wrong based on the pure numbers. And Deontay Johnson on the field also just looks better than these guys. He's quick, he's agile, he's got good hands, he can make guys miss in the open field, and that's what you want in a receiver. Now, the target leaders per game this year, the top 4 are Jamison Crowder, Devontae Adams, Keenan Allen, and DeAndre Hopkins. Now, the average number of targets per game for these guys is 11.5, 11.5, 10.5, and 10.4. Now, I just stated that Deontay Johnson is averaging over 12 targets per game in the ones that he's playing until the end. So, I mean, this guy is, I'm going to say it, he's a top 10 wide receiver when he's healthy and playing, just based on the volume he gets. And in this great Pittsburgh Steelers offense, it's just this is just
I don't know.
You had me up until that point. I mean, I agree. Deontay Johnson is the number 1 on the Steelers without question. But top 10, that is taking quite a leap of faith.
Listen,
especially for a guy that doesn't stay healthy, and I don't know. I think I'd rather that. I think he's definitely a mid to high end 2, but I'm not sure about a top 10 receiver in the entire NFL.
Yeah.
Fantasy wide
I mean,
receiver.
Yeah, fantasy, obviously.
I don't think Deontay Johnson's the one. I just think that JuJu gets that double coverage, so Deontay Johnson just gets open. I mean, look at the numbers. The games Deontay Johnson was out, that was the game Claypool went off, so he got the single coverage. And James Washington, he went off in another game when Deontay Johnson was out. So I just think whoever they put at the 2 at the Steelers' offense, I think JuJu just can't get open.
Yeah, you make
Yeah.
a valid point there, but if your number one receiver can't get open, then he's not your number one receiver, and Deontay Johnson is getting open. So,
All right, moving on to he's a monster for the week. This guy, I think we can all agree, is just he's the ultimate monster for the week, and that is Tyler Lockett, wide receiver, Seattle Seahawks, and he's a monster, and these numbers are just mind-boggling. 15 catches, 200 yards, 3 touchdowns on 20 targets, which equates to 53 PPR fantasy points. And that is absolutely unbelievable. So if you had Tyler Lockett in your lineup, you're basically halfway to 100 points already just with Tyler Lockett alone, one player in your lineup. And Tyler Lockett is he seems to be one of these guys that in these certain spots he has these blow up games where, Russell Wilson just only looks his way. It seems like that was the case in this game. 20 targets. Are you kidding me? That is just wow.
Absurd.
On an offense where they have DK Metcalf.
Yeah, and speaking of Metcalf, before that game, the Arizona defensive staff and their coordinator, Vance Joseph, they made it a point to the media saying that they were not going to let DK Metcalf beat them and that they had a plan for DK that included coverage from Patrick Peterson, double teams, and just seeing the majority of the coverage from the secondary. And it did its job, but it did work, but it left Tyler Lockett wide open. And when you talk about Tyler Lockett's outlook the rest of the season, he's a must start. You're just going to have to come to terms with the fact and accept the fact that there are going to be some games where he has like 2 catches for 20 yards and 3 catches for 27 yards or something. But it's going to come with its rewards, like this game that he had last Sunday.
Yeah, the Seahawks offense is a problem just because of these 2 guys, Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. Whichever one you don't double team is gonna go off, as we've seen many times before. I think through the first 4 or 5 weeks, DK Metcalf wasn't seeing as much coverage. But then people started to realize how good he was, so they started throwing the double coverage on him. And as you can tell, the Seahawks picked this up, and they started throwing to Tyler Lockett a whole lot more.
And it also doesn't hurt having Russell Wilson as your quarterback.
Absolutely.
It doesn't.
All right.
Just one more thing. For those of you who are curious, the best fantasy game by any player was by Jerry Rice in 1990, where he scored 68.5 fantasy points. He totaled 13 receptions for 225 yards and 5 touchdowns. Tyler Lockett, not quite there, but still very, very good.
Wow, 5 touchdowns.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to our winners and losers of week number 7. Gags, give us your first winner.
My first winner is my former quarterback, TB12.
Oh, my quarterback.
Now it's fair towards Bucks quarterback, but Tom Brady. He also could have been a candidate for he's a monster with his insane 369 yards, 4 touchdowns with no interceptions or any fumbles, 36 fantasy points. I mean, that's pretty good for a quarterback, and pretty good for a non-rushing quarterback.
Yeah.
And speaking of rushing, he did rush for a touchdown in this game.
He did.
On a QB sneak.
On a QB sneak. That's Brady's. That's his thing. But what a great game by Tom Brady, honestly. I mean, and the receivers are only getting better. I know Godwin's going to be hurt. But when all of them are healthy, AB, Mike Evans, and Chris Godwin. And Rob Gronkowski's kind of showing some improvement. I think Brady is just going to sling this rock and honestly be a top 3 quarterback in fantasy. When we end the year, Brady will be a top 3 quarterback in fantasy.
Absolutely. I completely agree. Tom Brady he's playing as well as any other quarterback.
And
he's 43.
And he's 43. And we know one of our listeners, TJ Gillespie, today was throwing some shade at the Bucs because he's somehow a Seahawks fan. And he doesn't agree with the premise that the Bucs are playing as well as the Seahawks, or that the Bucs are the team to beat in the NFC right now. And if you don't think that, you are not watching the football games. Based on what your eyes are telling you and just simply watching football on Sundays, you would see that the Tampa Bay Bucs are a better all-around football team than the Seattle Seahawks. And, he wants to say Russell Wilson was shown disrespect after he had a bad end to the game. Well, sorry, Russell Wilson, we've all been saying it, is the front runner, so there's no disrespect being thrown that way. The Seahawks, absolutely. The Seahawks, Russell Wilson had 3 horrendous interceptions that cost them the game on Sunday night. And when you want to talk about, the favorites in the NFC and, what the factors that play into making a team the favorite, well, how about defense? Defense counts. The Seahawks are horrendous. They have a horrendous defense. Horrendous. Bottom 3 in the league, actually. And the Bucs have a top 3 defense in the league. So that plays a factor, too. Bucs fan, what say you about this?
What say I about this? I say that the Bucs are most certainly the team to beat in the NFC, and if not the team to beat the entire NFL. And we got 2 very exciting games coming up. After this one, of course, they play the Giants, but then we get the Saints on Sunday night, and we get the Kansas City Chiefs. Those 2 games are going to be pivotal in how people look at this team as a total, as they're playing the former the Super Bowl champs and their division rival. So over the next 3 weeks, we're going to really see if they're the team to beat. And right now, I do say they are.
Yeah, I think me, Spurter, we can both agree that TJ Gillespie is not helping his case that he knows more football than either of us. That's one of the worst takes I've ever heard. I mean,
I also need some respect on Tom Brady's name. I think we should be calling him MVP candidate Tom Brady.
Oh yeah.
Well, he's playing that way.
Since week 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. In 5 games, he's only thrown 1 interception, and has thrown how many? 12 touchdowns, 12-to-1 ratio.
The Bucs are putting up 35 points every single week.
He's a monster.
How are they not the favorites in the NFC, and how are they not let alone in the same league as the Seahawks? I mean, that's a horrendous take. That's one of the worst takes of all time, and it's one where we throw up the emoji for.
Yeah. Going back to the fantasy aspect of Tom Brady. Tom Brady has never been a guy who's had that much upside because he doesn't run the ball. So, and on this offense, with all the weapons he has, he definitely has a lot of upside because of how many touchdowns he can throw in any given week. And he can have that, QB sneak at the 1-yard line, which is a pivotal point in your matchup. But, yeah, I would agree. He's a top 3 quarterback.
And to our listeners out there, I think I can speak for Spurter saying this. We are throwing out a challenge to TJ Gillespie to come on this very air and this YouTube channel and, and talk football with us, because he says he knows more than us. He makes these outrageous claims in our group chat, and he's got no courage of his convictions to come on here and discuss football with us and, just talk and debate the points he's trying to make. So, open challenge thrown out. You wanna step up and have some courage and some guts. You come on this air and you talk football with us, or you want to be gutless. You continue to just type away on the keyboard and not talk with us. So
Nick,
open challenge thrown out.
I think he deserves a certain title, TJ Gillespie. One of your catchphrases, I would say.
Which one?
I think gutless is the first word of it. I think you should elaborate on that, Fish.
Absolutely. All right. Since we are we are pressed for time. Let's move into these winners and
Okay, I was gonna
losers.
say, Gillespie,
Oh, we
you
were.
are a gutless puke. A gutless puke.
Thank you, Gags. All right. Gags gave his first winner. Svertor, who's yours?
All right, my first winner is another quarterback. It's Baker Mayfield of the Cleveland Browns. Now, you might be thinking, this guy just lost his top receiver in Odell Beckham Jr. Now I'm here to tell you that that is exactly why he is a winner this week. It's because
Ooh, let's hear
it,
this.
it is because Baker Mayfield, without Odell Beckham Jr., is a better quarterback than Baker Mayfield with Odell Beckham Jr. Now let's just look at the real life stats here. He has four career games with a passer rating of 125 plus, and 3 of those games came before Beckham came to the team, and the one other one was last week when Beckham left early in the first half, and he slung for 5 touchdown passes, including the game-winning one to beat the Bengals. Now, OBJ has been touted as an elite receiver for many years of his NFL career, but I don't think an elite receiver would have a 53.5 catch percentage. That ranks the second lowest among wide receivers this year with 40-plus targets. And when Mayfield is throwing Odell Beckham Jr. the ball, his passer rating is a measly 71 compared to it's not too great, but his 87 career passer rating. So Baker Mayfield is trying to force feed Beckham the ball, which is causing him to throw more interceptions. It's causing him to throw more deep balls, which I don't really think is his strength. His strength is, middle of the field, working the defense down, not throwing the ball downfield every play. As you can tell, he's not that accurate in doing that. So without Odell Beckham Jr. there, he won't have to worry about giving him 10-plus targets a game. He'll just worry about slinging around to guys like Jarvis Landry and Peoples-Jones and Rashard Higgins and those kinds of guys, rather than force feed Odell Beckham Jr., who's getting double covered every time.
Absolutely. I don't know what to say really about that stat that Beckham is actually worse for Mayfield. I don't know what to say about that. All right. Moving forward to my first winner of the week. It's a guy that arguably was in contention for the He's a Monster segment. And it's James Robinson, running back for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And this was, I think, a pretty pivotal and big game for Robinson, given that the previous couple of weeks, it looked like he was kind of starting to fade as, a real solid fantasy starter or number one running back. But this year put all those questions, it answered all those questions. There are no more questions about James Robinson. He is a stud. He's a workhorse running back. He's a top 12 running back. Absolutely, rest of the year. One aspect of his game that really surprised me was his passing work. I thought that Chris Thompson would be the passing downs back for the Jacksonville team, just based on his connection with the coordinator, Jay Gruden, and his history as, being a pretty successful third down back. But no, James Robinson, I think, has surpassed him. Thompson can barely see the field now with the way James Robinson is playing. He had 31 PPR points, which is it's tremendous. And there's no reason for us to think that James Robinson is going to slow down really anytime soon.
Let me ask you a question. Rest of season, who would you rather have? James Robinson or Ezekiel Elliott?
It's a really close call. Ben DiNucci, I think, is going to start for the Cowboys. He's not going to start for them rest of the season. So I'll say Zeke. Just because I think the floor is there with Zeke. Although he had a horrendous game last week,
and the week before that.
I don't think the week before that. I mean, what did he catch, like 8 passes?
Yeah, all right. Horrendous NFL week. We'll say that.
Yeah, all right. You're right. He fumbled twice. Well, I think Zeke can get back on track. If he gets in the end zone, he's a top 10 fantasy back every week because just based on the volume and his involvement in the passing game.
I'm actually going to go James Robinson there.
I'm gonna go James Robinson too.
All
I think
right.
if someone was offered, if I had Zeke and I got offered James Robinson for Zeke Elliott, I think I would take it.
Okay, moving on. I guess I'll give my second winner of the week. It is Washington football team running back Antonio Gibson. Antonio Gibson, who was a very hyped up rookie coming into the season following the release of Adrian Peterson, who is now a Detroit Lion, who last game versus the Dallas Cowboys had a season high 20 carries for a season high 128 yards. That totals out to 6.4 yards per carry, and he found the end zone early. And I think this is his breakout game. He got 20 carries, like I said, 128 yards on the ground. So this is what Antonio Gibson owners have been waiting for the entire season, was for him to be the lead back in Washington, and that's exactly what he was. J.D. McKissick, his only competition, only had 5 carries in this game. Now, he did only have 1 target in this game, but I think that is in part because they were having such success on the ground game that they didn't need to pass, and surprisingly, they were winning by multiple touchdowns for the entire game. So I expect Antonio Gibson to get more than 1 target moving forward per game. So Antonio Gibson, I think he's a plug him into your lineup guy.
Absolutely. All right, Gags, your, I think, second winner.
My second winner is the wide receiver for the Detroit Lions, Kenny Galladay. I love me some Kenny Galladay, I'm not gonna lie. He's been pretty consistent this year with 17, 16, 14, and 17. He either has some catches and a lot of yards or some catches and a touchdown. And I just love him as, I say, like a high-end receiver too, a consistent receiver too, who's constantly going to give you 12 points or more every week.
I can't disagree.
He's a
Can't disagree there.
He's a plug-in guy, and he's old reliable, you know?
Absolutely. The Lions don't really have that great of a defense either, so they make an effort to run the ball, but I think they should try to unleash Stafford, but the coaching staff there is kind of clueless, but still Galladay is the clear superior. Galladay is the clear superior, and I think he's guaranteed production.
Especially if Marvin Jones gets out of there. I know he's been talked into some trades around the league, like in real life. So if Marvin Jones gets out of there, it's all Kenny Galladay.
Yep. All right. My second winner of the week is Justin Herbert, quarterback, Los Angeles Chargers. And there really isn't much that needs to be said about Justin Herbert. He's a must-start quarterback moving forward. Herbert has shown that he's got exceptional talents as a upcoming stud QB in this league. He had 347 yards, 3 touchdowns, and he had 66 rushing yards and another score on the ground, which I think was 38 in 4-point per passing touchdown leagues, 38 fantasy points, which is exactly what you want it's exactly what you want and much more from your quarterback every week. The Chargers don't have a run game, so that they have to lean on Herbert to advance in their offense and move the ball down the field. Justin Herbert's a must-start quarterback until further notice.
I agree with you there. One of the rookie sensations of the NFL. We'll see if Tua can have the same success that he has had. But anyway, getting back to our winners and losers, I will give my final winner of the week, and it is Sterling Shepard, wide receiver of the New York Giants, who I believe is the one on this offense. And anyone who wants to go against me is more than welcome to, but they are going to be wrong. Coming off of his last game against Philadelphia, where he had 8 targets for 6 catches, 59 yards, and a touchdown. That's Welcome back, Sterling Shepard from Turf Toe. Obviously, this is a guy who's battled injuries over the last couple of years. Last year, he had the concussions. This year was the turf toe. But when he's in there, he's getting the volume. He's getting more targets than Slayton or Tate are getting when all three of them are playing. So I think that moving forward, Sterling Shepard is the guy you want to have in this wide receiver core.
Could be. Gags, you're a third winner.
My third winner is another receiver. It is A.J. Brown of the Tennessee Titans. I mean, he is just a beast, honestly. No other way to put it. Titans are winning, and they are going to keep winning if they keep throwing this ball to A.J. Brown, and I'm guessing they want to keep winning. His stat line this week, 6 catches for 153 yards and 1 touchdown. He's honestly just a monster, and honestly, I think when you were coming into the season, he was like a low wide receiver 2, mid wide receiver 2. But I think now he's a mid receiver 1.
Yeah, by the way, Gags, did you see how fast A.J. Brown was on his 70-yard touchdown?
I don't know the exact number, but
he took off. He was like
how
he was a blur.
How tall? Isn't he like a tall receiver too? Go up and get it type of guy?
Oh yeah, he is what you want in a receiver physically.
Metcalf.
All right, my third winner of the week is another receiver, Travis Fulgham, wide receiver, Philadelphia Eagles. And I think it's pretty clear now, Travis Fulgham is the number 1 receiver for the Eagles. Last week, he had a modest game of 5 receptions for, I think, 73 yards. But he also had 11 targets. And when you talk about his target share, ever since Travis Fulgham he really became a thing on Sunday night against the 49ers when he caught a big touchdown. But he didn't really play a ton in that game. And I think it was his first game in the NFL. He's a rookie. So he really became a thing the following week when he had a monster game against Pittsburgh. And since that game, in each of his last 3 games, dating back to that one against Pittsburgh, his targets in those games have been 13, 10, and 11. So that's a pretty hefty target share for Travis Fulgham. And that's what you want when you talk about fantasy for receivers. You want opportunity. You want targets. And if the guy has talent, it'll take over from there. And the two will combine and give you a great fantasy player. And I think that's what Travis Fulgham is going to do. Philadelphia, they had Deshaun Jackson was back for them, but he got hurt again, and he's back on the IR. So I think for this week, definitely, and moving forward, even when Jeffrey and guys like Rager come back, I think Travis Fulgham is going to be a mainstay in this offense. He played 96% of the snaps last week, so he's out there all the time. And Travis Fulgham, I expect the ball to continue to be thrown his way, and I think he should be a flex at worst, but he is definitely he's definitely a starter in your fantasy lineup.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
All right, moving on to our losers. Svarator, who is your
first?
Sure, Gags, you go first.
I know people are gonna hate on me for this, but my loss of the week is Ezekiel Elliott. I know a lot of people can agree with me, but I know a lot of people won't agree with me. Trade this man. Trade him immediately. 12 carries, 45 yards, 1 catch for 6. I mean,
yikes.
Last week he got 12 carries, 49 yards, 2 fumbles, and he had 8 catches for 31 yards and still only got 12 points.
Get out of here.
Like, come on, man.
Now, Gags. Now, Gags, you started this by saying some people might disagree with you on this. If you disagree with that Ezekiel Elliott's a loser at this week, you need your head examined.
Oh, yeah, of course. But I mean,
if you disagree with this, you're a moron. You're a certified moron.
I feel like people also. I mean, I know you said how Zeke is gonna have his floor and stuff, but I just don't see it with with the O-line he has, who's all banged up. And the Cowboys, I know they're trying to rebuild because I know
They
trade.
suck.
Who did they trade? They traded Griffin.
Yeah.
Yep.
They traded Everson
lineman, yeah.
Griffin, and they said they're going to release Dontay Poe and another guy if they don't get a trade for them today. So like that's just insane. I mean the Cowboys are trying to tank now, and Ezekiel Elliott is the one star in the offense in that is losing out on this.
Yeah, sorry, but I just want to clear something up. I don't want to come across as a fraud because earlier I said that I'd take Zeke over James Robinson rest of the season, and now I'm here saying that he's an absolute loser and that anybody that doesn't think that is a moron. I just want to say that while I think Zeke will bounce back, I can still be concerned about him. I can still think he'll be a top 10 running back rest of the season, or a top 5 or whatever rest of the season, and still be concerned about him after this week. I think both of those things can exist. So I just wanted to clear that up.
Yeah, and going back to the Cowboys as a whole, their coaching staff, they're all a bunch of huckadoodle-doos. I mean, they have no clue what they're doing. They have no clue what they're doing. Even the players.
Hackadoodle-doos.
Hackadoodle-doos. All right, hackadoodle-doos. That's what they are. Even the players.
Hackadoodle-doo, yo-yo moron.
Okay.
There are some idiots over there in Dallas.
All right, Svertor, who's your first winner?
Loser. My first loser of the week is actually the guy who's throwing Kenny Galladay the ball. It's Matthew Stafford, quarterback of the Detroit Lions, who coming into the year, I at least personally had a lot of hype around this guy because of what he showed through the first half of last year before he got injured. But he is nowhere near where he was last year. He's currently the quarterback 22 on this Lions team that just – I don't really know what they're doing, really. They're like, we're kind of trying to win here, but we're also not really good enough to win. So this is just a confused team, in my opinion. And this Lions passing attack is very confusing itself, actually, as they have just some bad numbers here. So Matthew Stafford is 204 attempts. That's 19th best. He's got a 62.3 completion percentage. That's 27th best. He's got 1,580 passing yards. That's 19th best. He's got 10 touchdowns, which is tied for 18th best. And whenever they get close to the end zone, all they do is hand the ball off to DeAndre Swift or Adrian Peterson. And if you're playing Matthew Stafford, this is just very frustrating to watch, as they don't throw the ball in the red zone for some reason. So you're relying on those big touchdowns, like the one at the end of the game where there was like 2 seconds left and he found Hawkinson.
Mm-hmm.
That saved his fantasy week. If he didn't score that touchdown, I mean, this it's just not good.
Yep. Definitely frustrating for Stafford owners. All right, I'll stay with the quarterbacks for my first loser, and I'll go with Cam Newton of the New England Patriots. And Gags, I know it brings much sadness to your heart that it's a Patriot and that he looks bad. Sorry, Patriots fans, he is not Tom Brady. You're getting pulled back down to reality now. You're going to be just like the rest of us and not be spoiled from here on out with greatest of all time at quarterback and at coach. Cam Newton looked atrocious last week and the week before that against Denver. He had negative fantasy points. He had 98 passing yards and 3 picks. He has no accuracy or arm strength whatsoever. He's bouncing balls to his receivers left and right. It's not what you want from Cam Newton. And New England has absolutely no playmakers on offense at the skill positions. And I mean, I'm trying to envision a world where Cam Newton bounces back. And even if that were to happen, I'd say the only way is just by him running the ball. I mean, I don't see any upside with Cam Newton at all as a passer. And the only way he bounces back, at least for fantasy purposes, is if he carries the ball 15 times a game and scores on the ground.
Mm-hmm. I'm not sure there's one New England Patriot that you can start in your lineup, unless you're really desperate like me and you have to start Damian Harris as your RB2 this week. But aside from that, I mean,
Honestly.
I guess you can make the case for James White, but as you saw from last week.
I guess against the right matchup, you can make the case with their defense.
Oh, okay, that's true.
But I mean,
I was talking about the offensive side of the ball.
Cam Newton can't. James White's only good if he can catch the ball. Cam Newton can't get him the ball. Julian Edelman's old. I don't know what's wrong with him. Like Super Bowl MVP. Come on, Super Bowl MVP. He stinks now. Who's the other receiver? N'Keal Harry.
He got hurt.
Okay, I don't even care. He got hurt. He cannot run a route for his life. He has the slowest feet of all time. He stinks.
I believe he was a first-round selection.
He
too.
was.
Yes,
He was.
He was a 32nd pick. I thought he was gonna be right when Gronk retired. I thought he was gonna be the new red zone threat. Big body, go up and get it. He stinks, man. Oh, so bad.
Yeah, not what you want
Not
if you're a
what you
Patriots fan. All right, Gags, who's your second winner? I mean, second loser. I made the mistake again.
My second loser is I forgot. It's Stephon Diggs. So Stephon Diggs' stats this week weren't too good for what you were expecting against the New York Jets. Horrible secondary, horrible team all around. Only 6 catches, 48 yards, and no touchdowns. Put up a disappointing 10. People are seeing Diggs. I mean, he's the fourth best receiver in fantasy right now. People are seeing him as a mid or low wide receiver 1, and that's not what you want to see from receiver 1 playing the Jets.
I'm gonna have to disagree with this one here. Stephon Diggs is still a very high volume guy, even though he only had 6 catches. He had 11 targets in this game. That's basically what he's been seeing all year, and he also got hurt for a brief period of time, but I'm not sure that affected him too much. But he's still on a good offense with a solid quarterback in Josh Allen. I don't think there's any reason to be worried here, really.
Well, I'm not saying getting worried. I'm just saying he's a loser for this week. That's not what you expect from receiver 1 against the New York Jets.
All right, my second loser of the week is CeeDee Lamb, wide receiver of the Dallas Cowboys, rookie. And for a while there in Dallas, certainly when Prescott was the quarterback and maybe Dalton against Arizona, CeeDee Lamb looked like he was the number 1 receiver in Dallas, or at least that he was coming close to Cooper. But even with the quarterback play, Amari Cooper is not going anywhere. CeeDee Lamb had 0 catches on 5 targets and 1 rush for 1 yard last week against the football team. And it's pretty mind-boggling that both CeeDee Lamb and Michael Gallup both had pretty much zeros last week. Gallup had a 0, Lamb had 0.1 points. And just the inconsistency at the Dallas quarterback spot moving forward, with or without Dalton, I don't know. I mean, I just don't see the upside with the quarterback play now. Obviously, if Prescott was the quarterback, that changes the whole entire thing. CeeDee Lamb's got, top 12 upside, but as it stands right now, I don't know about the Dallas offense as a whole. I'm trying to stay away for the most part.
Stay away from all Dallas players, and I mean, if you have Zeke, you're gonna obviously start Zeke. But yeah, I agree with that.
My second loser of the week is going to be running back of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Ronald Jones, who, coming off of 3 100-yard games, does not have the likes of his coaching staff, and therefore in comes Leonard Fournette, who played a role in Sunday's game versus the Raiders. And Fournette, who played on 55% of snaps compared to Jones's 44%, had 11 carries compared to Jones's 13. Jones beat him there. But Fournette had 6 targets, while Ronald Jones only had 2. And I think that's exactly what Fournette is going to do for the rest of the season. He's going to take away the targets from Ronald Jones. And Fournette was just the more efficient back in this game, averaging 5.4 yards per touch compared to Ronald Jones is 2.6 yards per touch. And it's just a very murky situation down in Tampa.
Yeah, Leonard Fournette actually had 7 targets and 6 catches for 47 yards. So it's just he's even more involved in the passing game. And I just don't get it. I mean, I can't, I'm not even going to try to figure out this backfield for the rest of the season because, I mean, Ronald Jones was as good as anybody in the last 3 weeks while Leonard Fournette was out. And he just gets tossed aside just like that.
Rojo earned this, man. I mean, isn't he the fourth?
Yeah.
Doesn't he have like the 4th most yards for a running back in like the whole league?
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know it off the top of my head. I wouldn't be surprised though. I mean, well, actually, we know Rojo he's got butterfingers, but still, he's a great rusher of the football. He had as Spurter said, 100 yards in his last 3 games rushing. I mean, just why? Why is he not getting the ball? What did he do to lose the job?
Of showing him and like Leonard Fournette just then takes away both of them. They're just like, oh, how do I explain it? They're just annoying to each other in fantasy value.
Yeah,
It's annoying, man.
By the way, Ronald Jones is 4th in the league in rushing.
And you really split. Like, that's crazy to me.
All right, Gags, who's your third loser of the week?
My third loser, I talked about him before of how I don't really like him. My fourth is, my last hate of the week is JuJu Smith-Schuster. He did okay this week with 9 catches and 85 yards for 17 points. But what was the score of the game? It was 30-27 or
30-27.
I remember last week's game. That was against the Titans too. That was against an unbeaten team. I remember last game against the Browns. He did not do too well.
No, he didn't.
When it was what was the score of that game? Like 35-7 or something?
It was a blowout.
It was a blowout, and he only had 2 catches. How do you have more than 30 points on the scoreboard and your receiver? Supposedly the receiver 1 only has 2 catches.
Well, he's not supposed to be the receiver 1 because that, as we all know, is Deontay Johnson. But anyway,
I would not trust JuJu. A lot of people expect him to be receiver 2 this year. I expect him to be some formats receiver 3 and mid flex. That's the best I could really put him at.
Yeah, it's a frustrating situation with JuJu because it seems like he's never the number 1 receiver on this team. For a while, we thought it was, or actually not for a while, but for the recent weeks, we thought it was Chase Claypool with his 4-touchdown game. And then when he followed that up with a pretty nice game
and
against the Browns.
Deontay Johnson was out. I said this before. Deontay Johnson was out for that game. And Claypool went off. And then the other game, James Washington had a pretty good game, I think, with like 13 points. And that's pretty good for a receiver 4.
Absolutely.
16 for him. And then Claypool also had some points. And JuJu did not do too well.
All right. My final loser of the week is Mike Evans. And it's frustrating with Mike Evans, to say the least, because I think it's pretty clear that Mike Evans is just not healthy right now, and he's trying to play through an injury. Bruce Arians has said it, and it showed last game. He only had 2 catches on 2 targets for 37 yards, and in each of his last 2 games, he's had only 2 targets. And I just don't know. If Evans is going to continue to play, hurt, he doesn't have any upside at all. We know Godwin was ruled out for this Monday night game, but they said he could be back the following week, and if not that the week after that. And they've got Antonio Brown coming in to compete for even more targets. They've got Gronk, who's been stepping up, and they're throwing to Fournette and their running backs. So it just seems like Evans is in a pretty big crowd of skill players and receiving core, and Mike Evans, it just seems like it's touchdown or bust for the most part. I mean, he had that one game against the Los Angeles Chargers where he had 7 catches for over 100 yards and a touchdown. But other than that, he's had games where he's had like 2 catches, 2 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 catch for 2 yards and a touchdown. So Mike Evans is just, I mean, you can't. I wouldn't really start him, but you can't drop him either.
Yeah.
So I mean, it seems like he's a bench warmer for the foreseeable future. So I mean, it's a tricky spot with Mike Evans, but I don't think you. I think you. I don't know who else you'd have. So you'd probably have to start him against the Giants this Monday. But if he doesn't perform in this game, and then with Antonio Brown coming the following week, I think it's a tough spot for Mike Evans.
Very tough spot for Evans.
Yep. All right, the final loser of the week is going to be Devin Singletary, running back of the Buffalo Bills. Devin Singletary, in this backfield that is just very unpredictable, very confusing, and very unusable in fantasy football. Currently, the running back 28 on the year. He's been held to under 7 points in each of the last 3 games, and 2 of those games were without Zach Moss being active. So with Zach Moss, I don't think you can play either of these guys. Just they split the work. They have Josh Allen also taking away carries, and towards the rest of the season, he still plays New England twice, San Francisco, Pittsburgh, and Denver, all top tier run defenses. So Devin Singletary should be on your bench.
Absolutely. Devin Singletary sucks.
That's one way to put it.
His last 4 games, he's had 3.1 yards per carry, 2.27, 3.2, and 3.63 yards per carry. And with Zach Moss coming back, he played 54. Singletary played 54% of the snaps last week. And I don't know. Singletary, there's nothing exciting about Devin Singletary. He's seldomly used in the passing game. He's only scored once this year. Devin Singletary should not find a starting lineup out there. If he hasn't found a bench in your lineup by now, your team is really, really bad.
Just one more thing about the snap percentage. You said he played on whatever you said. 54%. Yeah, 54%. So without Zach Moss in the lineup, he's on the field for 80%. On average, and with Zach Moss, he's on the field for 60% on average. So there's obviously a drastic change there. So, yeah.
All right. This was, I would say, if I would say so myself, this was a great show. We had our He's a Monster segment. We had our great debate to open up the show. Winner, of course, finished by our winners and losers. We thank you, Gags, for filling in once again. For it seems like the lost and now the ghost of Thomas Walsh, because he's a non-factor. It seems like at this point he's never available. We hope to get him back next week. Thanks, Andrew Sferator. Thank you, Gags. It was a great show. We will see you next week.
Okay, see you, boys.